Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Hunter Thomas Mounce. This is Folks Like Us podcast. It's where we interview extraordinary people with great talents, but at the end of the day, they're just folks like us. Today is episode 8. I am interviewing my friend Cameron Lenz. He's an up-and-coming country singer, songwriter. He's an actor. He was a college baseball player, and he's about to get his real estate license. So he's doing a bunch of really cool things, and I'm excited for you guys to meet him. Y'all say hi to Cameron Lenz.
I met a woman about 6'7", caught my eye at the 7-Eleven, buying Jack Link's jerky and a carton of Marlboro Reds.
What's going on?
All right, Cameron. Man, it has been forever since I have talked to you.
It's been a minute.
Yeah, but we were catching up a little bit before the episode started, and man, we got a lot of really fun stuff to talk about. Would you kind of tell them where you're from and kind of where you grew up at?
Yeah. So I'm from Northern California. It's specifically about 40 minutes east of the San Francisco, so East Bay area. And I came out to Tennessee in 2015, January, and which is a terrible time for a California boy to come out during the winter. But I've been out here since 2015, so born and raised California.
Okay, Northern California.
Yeah.
So was it a lot of farmland up there, or you said Bay Area, so it was like
Yeah.
close to the beach, I guess maybe.
Well, what's interesting is California, for one, is massive. So a lot of people, surprisingly, in the South and even on the East Coast, seem to not realize how big it is. So where I grew up, definitely was city. It wasn't too far away from some ranches, and had a bunch of friends that had horses and showed horses and did all that good stuff. But I ended up going to school about an hour outside of my home in a place called Modesto, and it was a huge agriculture and dairy farming. So I had some friends that had some dairy farms. A couple friends had some almond farms. So it was, a lot of farming. And I'll be honest, I met people that are more country in those outskirts than I have even in Tennessee and some other places. And surprising, yeah.
Yeah, I know it can be a little bit misleading because whenever people think of California, they think of L.A. But as we learned in episode 2, Joe Costa, I don't know if you know him or have heard of him, but he's in a married duo with his wife, Joan Martinez, their name, and they are from Central Valley. It's like Fresno area, kind of. Mm-hmm. So I learned a lot about California on that episode, and he was saying a lot of similar things that you're saying about how it's real misunderstood. It's very big. A lot of people don't realize that it's California's bigger than the size of a lot of these small countries.
I mean, if you were to go top to bottom, you could probably drive 24 hours. You're still in California.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a tall, skinny. Definitely.
Yeah, that's crazy. Okay, so in high school, how big was your high school you went to?
It was huge. My graduating class was, I want to say, around between 600 and 700 students, and then overall it was probably pushing around 3,000.
Okay.
In that school.
So you're a baseball player.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Did you play any other sports?
Oh yeah, played everything. Yeah.
Okay. Football, baseball, basketball.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the thing was I was pretty athletic as a young kid, so I played everything, but I got to a point early middle school where I was just good at throwing shit.
Okay.
And I really enjoyed it, and my parents noticed it. I started getting scouted in 7th grade, and by some colleges, which was funny. But it got to a point where my parents were like, "Hey, you can go pretty far with this, and we're willing to help, put you on some travel teams, and but it's going to be a year-round thing." So I had to kind of walk away from playing football. I played football a little bit in high school, but I walked away from that and focused on baseball. I want to say freshman year, I went all in on baseball.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I played everything, man. I love sports. I'm an outdoor guy.
Me too.
Yeah.
Well, now, but the next question I'm thinking is, okay, you're going to a school where there's 600-700 people in a class. How hard is it to make the sports team in a school like that?
So that's the thing is I grew up not knowing any different.
Okay.
So I'm the youngest of 5 kids. All my siblings were athletes. Specifically, my brother Peter, he he was a big football guy at that school. I ended up going Division I, and my sister played softball out of that same school. Amador Valley High School is where I went.
Okay.
And so, honestly, I was just used to seeing athletes out of high school going to these Division Is. I mean, just for example, my junior year, our shortstop went to Stanford. He was on a full ride, and he's now playing right field for the A's. Our catcher went to Fresno State. Our pitcher ended up going to LSU at one point, won a world championship with them. And then we had an outfielder going to Sac State, which was Division I. I mean, it was just Division I. There was a point where we had a guy going on a full ride to UCLA topping out 94 in high school, pitching against our shortstop going to Stanford, and we watched our shortstop take him deep over center field. And like we grew up, we had guys that went to Amador that played professional that came back, and I'm having a brain fart on his name, but he was a big old redhead righty, and this dude was chucking 97, 98, and he'd come back and pitch to us.
Wow.
And I mean, don't get me wrong, we couldn't touch him, but it's my senior year we had a sophomore, and I don't remember her name. She was 16, and she qualified for the Olympics as a swimmer. And it's like I grew up. Every one of our sports teams had Division I athletes.
Wow.
And then I bounced around to a couple schools. I ended up finishing up on almost a full ride to Cumberland University, which is out here. And as soon as I got there, it was barely 1,000 students overall. I mean, a tiny campus. So I went from a school 3 times as big, and the campus was mad. I mean, it was a college campus where I went for high school. And then I went to this tiny little hole in the wall. I mean, you could fart on one side of the school and they could hear it on the other.
Yeah.
That's how small it was.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was tough to answer your question. Yeah, but I love competition. I love the competitiveness, and I thrived in that environment. So I think that's why I love sports so much growing up. I watched my older brothers and sisters play and compete, and I grew up competing, and I thought it was everywhere. I thought that's how high school was everywhere. I mean, De La Salle. You heard of De La Salle?
Sure.
Pretty prestigious football team. So they're in our league back home.
Wow.
So it's like, that's all I knew.
Okay. Well, that's not a bad problem to have. That you're just kind of born and bred to win because you just have to. That's cool. And you can probably confirm this, but whenever you surround yourself with people who are really good at something, it naturally makes you better at things.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's. Well, I mean, it's visual learning, and it's also just physically trial and error. You're around these people that are excelling, so you're learning quick, but it pushes you.
Yeah.
I've always heard the term, you want to be a millionaire, hang out with 5 millionaires.
Yeah.
You want to be fit, hang out with 5 fitness people. I grew up in a group setting all through, basically up through my senior year of competitive athletes.
Yeah.
And some of my buddies, one of my buddies just pitched in the World Series for the Dodgers. And it's so weird. I have a handful of friends now that are legit playing professionally, making great money as athletes, and
nice.
I grew up alongside of them, and it's just, to me, it's like, it's cool now to see that. It really is. But at the same time, I'm like, man, I guess I did grow up around some pretty phenomenal talent. I had one of our quarterbacks in our league was a starter for the Vikings this past playoffs.
Wow.
And it's just wild.
Dang. Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you, I pretty much grew up the opposite of that. Very, very small school.
Yeah.
Kindergarten through 8th grade, I went to this school called Strasburg. There was 100 kids in the entire school. So there was about 7, 8, 10 people in my class all the way up until high school.
Yeah.
And then when I got to high school, I think we had 185 to 200 kids in my grade, and it was the biggest in history. And for me, going from that little to that bigger school, man, it just seemed like such a culture shock to me. And so I guess this kind of ties in with me always feeling like I'm a bit of a late bloomer too, because so that was a thing that I had to adjust to. Well, then going from living in Pleasant Hill, which I thought was big, 8,000 people, to moving to Nashville, that was another culture shock. And I feel like I'm just now kind of getting my bearings on. I've made the adjustment, so I've had to do a lot of adjusting. But kind of relating to what you said is I've figured out that if you surround yourself with great people, truly genuine good people, that you can pretty much do anything, and it's just cool
that's
that
even
even though we came from totally different totally different backgrounds.
I'm definitely blessed from where I came because it instilled this work ethic and a lot of key characteristics about me as a person that I still, carry and use on a daily basis. And a lot of that has to do with, for example, work ethic and seeing people succeed. And I had so many people that tried to tell me I couldn't do things on the athletic side, and I proved every one of them wrong. And it's like, so I just grew up just thinking, if somebody, says no, then all right, well, it's going to feel good when I tell them when I show them yeah. And so, it's definitely different. When I went out to Cumberland and it was a small school, it was culture shock for me. The joke about Cumberland was the two best things about the school were the baseball team and the dessert tray in the cafeteria room.
Okay.
It was, everything else wasn't, I watched them get shut out in a couple different sports, but baseball, we were number one in the country when I was there, and so it was cool. But at the same time, oh man, it was such a shock that everybody knew everybody, and I remember sitting out front of the cafeteria and talking to one of the soccer players and just genuinely interested in having a conversation with her, and she was from Canada, which I didn't know a whole lot of people from Canada yet at that point, but. Everybody seemed to think we were dating the next day. And I'm like, Lord, we were just sitting out in front of the cafeteria talking.
The whole, I saw you talking to the girl from the soccer team. Nobody talks to the girls from the soccer team, brother.
That spread like a wildfire. It was funny to me, but at the same time, I'm like, Lord.
Everybody knows.
You guys not have anything better to do? And the answer was, no, they didn't. It was a small school in a small town. 30,000 people in Lebanon is considered like a decent-sized town out here.
Yeah.
But, my town back home was close to 100,000.
Yeah.
Just completely different.
Yeah. That's crazy, man.
Yeah, man.
It's funny. So he went from really big to really small, and I went from really small to really big. So we've got the same experiences, just kind of reversed. But, man, have you always done music, or how did that come about?
Yeah, that started. So the thing is that I always had an ear for music.
Okay.
I remember at a young age, my mom tells stories all the time. She never fails to want to remind me. One example was, we had our grandpa's piano. We took it to our house. My grandpa lived in San Francisco, so it was about an hour away, and we ended up having one of his pianos in our house. And I told my mom I wanted to play the Star Song. I think I was 4. And so when I said the Star Song, she was thinking Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And I started playing the theme to Star Wars. But the thing is, it wasn't some elaborate Mozart piece. It was the 4-year-old hitting individual keys, but it was on key. It was on.
You were 4?
I was 4.
Jeez.
And so it got to a point where I was always fascinated with instruments. I always thought that was fun. I wanted to figure them out.
Okay.
But it was 7th grade. I went over to a buddy Justin's house. He had an electric guitar in his bed. It wasn't plugged in. I picked it up, and I remember thinking this thing was so cool. And I didn't know what I was doing, but, you ever heard that song, This Is How We Do, that rap song? Mm-hmm. This is how we... So I played that on the high E string, and I was like, that is so cool. I just played a song. And told my parents, and I was like, what, I really want a guitar for Christmas. And the funny thing was, my very first guitar, my brother worked at Target at the time. And there was a deal going on, as well as his discount. My parents bought me a Washburn Lion guitar, an acoustic and an electric. Had a little tiny, it looked like a fanny pack amp that you could put around, and it'd plug in, it ran off batteries. The thing peaked so bad when you plugged your electric in and played it. It was terrible. But they cost, I think the acoustic guitar was $30 after discount and everything. And she's, because my mom's like, well, I know he's got a gift, and she tells me now, but she's like, I knew you had an ear for music, but I didn't know what you wanted to do with it. But I wanted to get you something that you could have fun with. But I wasn't going to spend a shit ton of money if I didn't know if you were serious about it. And then I ended up kind of running with it, really loving it, started learning country songs, and one thing led to another. And then I was at that junior college in Modesto, that farming area I told you about. And I had a friend of mine, I was taking debate at the time, and she was in the class with me, and she rode, she did barrel racing and stuff, so she loved horses, loved all that. And she told me, she goes, because I sent her a couple things of me just singing some shit, just like SoundCloud recordings, private recordings, and I was just like, I wanted to get some more outside feedback. I'm like, tell me what you think. And she heard it, and she's like, dude, you're actually really good. And she's like, you need to get on Vine. you ever heard of Vine? And I was like, I mean, I heard of it. My first reaction, I was like, I'm not doing that shit.
Yeah.
I'm not, she's like, listen, there are people on there with like 400,000 followers. And she's like, you're better than they are. And I was like, I don't know. And so finally I just said, screw it. And I did it. And in about 2 months, I was 15,000 followers, had like 2.5 million revines or vines, whatever.
Yeah.
My biggest one was 200K. And I started growing. I just started taking off.
Growing like a weed, growing like a vine, dude.
Yeah, growing like a vine. There you go.
Hell yeah.
And then SoundCloud, I started getting some feedback. But you know what? The key, one of the key deciding factors, despite me having some success on Vine, I wrote a song. So back then, around that exact time, my great grandfather. No, it wasn't grandfather. My great uncle. That's what it was. My great uncle had passed away. And he'd been married for like 50 years to my great aunt. And he was living in hospice, so he was at the home at the time, and then he had passed. And he was about 25 minutes in Oakdale, away from Modesto. So it was about an hour from my home, but I was living in Modesto at the time. So we went over there to visit, my great aunt and to comfort her and to see Uncle Bob. And when we got there, like it was a really weird experience. Because it's like, there he was and he wasn't there. It was different. But I watched her, the people came to take him away, and I watched her say goodbye to him. And, you would think in that situation it would be this Hollywood scene, right? Just tears rolling down her face. She's got a sailor's mouth, so it wasn't like that. Matter of fact, she could swear up. She probably swore more times than she said regular words.
Yeah.
But still, at the end of the day, super, super sweet woman. And I watched her say goodbye to him. And within an instant, I had this line in my head. Well, it's never easy saying the words you wish you had to... No, what was it? Well, it's never easy saying the words you wish you never had to say as you watch the man you've been married to for 50 years slowly drift away. And that, it just hit me. And I don't know why it hit me. So I wrote it down. And I ended up writing a song. It was one of my first songs I wrote called Not For Long. And it's goodbye for now, not for long. Like, I'll see you in heaven. I just wrote it just to write it. I just felt this overwhelming feeling of creativity, and I'm like, it's this feeling I had. I didn't feel like I needed to vent. I just wanted to put it to paper and music. And I know you know that feeling. It's just, you get excited about it, but it's just like, I want to do this. And so I did it, and I put it on Facebook and on SoundCloud. I reached out to a handful of Facebook pages that were all country-based. They all ended up, supporting me, sharing my stuff. There was a woman, I don't remember her name. She had reached out, and her message was something like, hey, like, my name is so-and-so. I don't know you personally, but I heard your song Not For Long, and I just want to let you know my papa recently lost, my mama, and he was in a very dark place. And it just, we tried to help him. He just was a lot of, but I showed him this song, and it brought light to him. And she's like, it brought him out of it. I don't know what it was. And she goes, you literally have changed my papa after he lost his best friend. And she's like, I just want to thank you. And it was overwhelming. I remember I was in the car with my girlfriend at the time, and she was driving. I was in the passenger seat. I remember reading the messages, and my hand dropped. And she's like, are you okay? What's wrong? And I told her. And it was just one of the most, but it wasn't even that. It was about, 3 or 6 months later, something like that. She reached back out to me again. And she said, hey, I don't know if you remember me, blah, blah, blah. Of course I did. And she's like, but you the song, Not For Long, help my papa. Well, he just passed away recently. And I wanted to ask you your permission if we could play it at his memorial.
Wow.
And dude, this was, I took my phone. It was the jankiest setup, bro. Like, I had my guitar stand. I stood it up. It was a hard case. Stood it up, set my phone at the top. I clicked record and played guitar and sang into it. It was the driest recording you can get, but I posted it. And for me, it's like that was one of the songs that was going to be played to help remember this. I don't even know how old he was. He could have been 80, 90, I don't know. But out of his whole life, that's a song that was going to be played to remember that. And that's when I realized, I'm like, okay, God gave me something.
Yeah.
And I was like, it may not be fine-tuned. It may be just it needs a lot of work. But I said, but there's something going on. And so I chased it. When I went out to, I ended up getting a scholarship out to Cumberland, and I brought music out there, and apparently the whole softball team knew me as a singing guy on Vine before I even got there, which was weird. but it got to a point where I knew, and I tell people, you know when the sun goes, so when you go to bed tonight, you're going to wake up the next morning, the sun's going to come up. You don't even think about it, right?
Yeah.
That's how I felt. I was like, music is what I'm supposed to do.
Damn.
And I trusted it. And then since then, it's just a whirlwind of just things.
Yeah.
So I didn't always know, man. I thought I was going to be hucking a ball around my whole life and with calluses on my fingertips and running poles and all that shit for as long as that's what that was my intent, because I was good and I enjoyed it. Nope. God had plans.
Wow. So tell me what kind of goes through your mind whenever you think you're going to be doing one thing and then all of a sudden something totally brand new comes along. It sounds like you're pretty accepting of that.
But that has everything to do with my faith.
Good.
It really does. It's I've always been a believer and love the Lord, but it was when I was 19 is when I really caught fire for God and started really, really giving him more control over my life. I never resisted it, but I believed him. I just didn't really know. I didn't have the relationship I have now with him. And I think it's just God reaches out to people at different times.
Yeah.
But because of that, I got to a point where I realized that I don't have a lot of control over a lot of things in life. So it's like, I'm not going to worry about it, for one. But for two, I have complete confidence that the minute I'm born to the minute that God calls me up, he has every step of my life laid out to where he will give me the most optimal amount of joy and happiness and love that I'll ever have if I just trust him.
Yeah.
And every time that I try to do shit on my own, I get humbled, because I always learn, even though I'm like, well, I think this is what I want to do. God closed that door, and then I put me back on the right path, and then I felt more fulfilled again. Mm-hmm. And I got to this point where I'm like, you know what? I tell people I'm like a dog in the passenger seat. God's driving. When he says get out and bark, I get out and bark. Yeah. I'll chase a ball around, and then I come right back into the truck, and we keep driving, and that's been a big reason why I've been able to just trust. I sometimes have my own difference of opinion with it. I may not always be excited about what I'm doing, but I trust it. I trust it 100%. Yeah.
So, as far as I knew, I thought you just grew up being a baseball player and then moved to Nashville to do music. But, and I guess real quick, remind me to come back to this, because I do want to ask you about how you got into acting.
Sure.
Because that was news to me, and you're like the only person I know who's trying to do that. Yeah. So we'll come back to that here in a little bit. But what made you want to move to Nashville? What was like the deciding factor? Hey, I'm setting a date. Hey, I'm going.
God.
Right back to what you were just saying.
And I'll tell you how that happened. And this is part of my testimony too, to give you an idea. I'll try to summarize this without lagging it out. I was dating a girl at the time. It was 2012, I think. 2013. Yeah, 2012 I dated this girl. 2013, final answer. I dated this girl, was with her for a little over a year. Great girl. I was getting to a point where I was moving back home to play for a travel ball team in the summer, and one thing led to another. She randomly texted me a couple days after. She was in tears saying bye to me. Didn't want me to. I was moving back home about an hour away, so it was hard for her.
So you're gonna be an hour away from her?
Yeah, and I'd gone to that school for almost 3 years, Modesto Junior College, and so when I went back, a couple days passed, and she reached out and she goes, "Hey, I don't feel like God wants us to be together right now," and I was shocked. I was like, "What?" And then one thing led to another, and her belief was it was a gut feeling, just like how I trust that what I'm supposed to do was God. She told me this, and like I get it. Some people are going to be like, well, you should have fought more, blah blah blah. Like, no. It's I'm at a spot in my life with my faith where I trust when God gives me a feeling, I trust it.
Yeah.
So one thing led to another. I went to this Division II, Cal State East Bay in California. The whole time I was there, that's when my Vine started happening and really taking off. The whole time I was there, I felt this feeling like, first of all, I wasn't happy there. And I couldn't figure out why. I thought it was because they didn't have a football team, and I hated that. I wanted to go to football games, tailgate, and all that stuff, have fun. They didn't have a football team, and it just pissed me off. But I wasn't happy there. And in the back of my mind, it was like this small voice, almost like a freaking parrot on your shoulder, telling you, like, you need to be in Nashville. And I don't know how to explain it. It just kept, I need to be in Nashville. I need to be in Nashville. And my vine was growing, so I knew, I was getting feedback and attention. There was an agent out of L.A. that reached out and said, hey, you need to be in either L.A. or Nashville. And I'm like, look, all respect, I ain't going to L.A.
Yeah.
I'm going to Nashville. And but I didn't know when, how, where, why, like, how was I going to pay for it? Where am I going to stay? I didn't know any of that. I was one of the top pitchers in that fall program. Coach brought me into that school to be, I was a junior, to be a kind of a leader for the younger guys. So I kind of helped, and to the best I could to do that. And then he called me in at the end of the fall for our meetings, and he told me, he's like, Cam, I don't know if I see you coming back. And I was shocked, dude. I was blown away. Now, keep in mind, during this fall, my dad had a stroke, was dealing with some health issues. I chose to go to Cal State East Bay because it was closer. I had other offers. It was closer to my house, so I could be there for my dad. My dad could come to my games. But then all of a sudden, Coach calls me in and says, we don't know if we see you coming back. And I was like
you're not good enough?
Not necessarily, not a good fit. Not necessarily good enough, because but that's the thing, is like I was like, dude, I was great in the fall. I was throwing great. Like, we all had stuff we had to improve on, but I was showing a lot of good signs. And he told me that. And I was shocked. And he's like, you can try to come back in the spring and try out. I don't know if we're going to have a spot for you, but, just a heads up. And at the same time, man, this is a Division II. I'm a junior. I was a little bit of an older ball player. So, like, maybe they had some younger guys they wanted to give more attention to. I don't know. But I remember I walked out of that the meeting was on the football field, soccer field. I don't have a football team. But it's and two of my buddies, their pitchers were playing long toss on the turf, and they were just getting their drills in. And I walked out to them, and they go, "Hey, how'd the meeting go with Coach?" And I was like, "I'm not coming back." And they're like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, he told me he doesn't know if he sees me coming back. They were shocked. I mean, just deer in headlights. And they're like, "Well, what are you gonna do?" And I was like, "I don't know, man. But the one thing I do know is that I feel like there's weight off my shoulders." Huh. And I did, dude. I when they told me that, I literally felt weight off my shoulders, and I don't know why. But I told him, I said, I trust God, man. God's got a plan. I don't know what it is yet, but I trust it. And then I'll never forget one of my buddies, and I'm blanking on his name, because I mean this was 8 years ago now, which is wild. But he goes, Cam, he goes, "Can I ask you a question?" And I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Will you pray with me?" And I was like, what? Are you serious? And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Dude, and so we did. Like, these two guys, we circled up in the end zone, right after I got told I wasn't coming back, and we prayed. Huh. And I had a couple of situations like that happen through my career, which I owe that to my faith, and I loved every second of every one of those moments. But I remembered after we did that, my parents met a guy at a timeshare event that lived out in Tennessee. And he was trying to get me to go to Faulkner University for a while. But I wanted to wait because I wanted to go NCAA and NAI. So we called him. I called him. One thing led to another. Talked to him. He connected me to Coach Hunt at Cumberland. And Coach Hunt was like, hey, we have we need a big arm pitcher to come in. We got some money, but I got to talk to your coach first. And I'm like, shit.
The one who just said, hey, I don't know if you're coming back.
Yeah, I'm like, well, there goes that. And I was like, all right, so I gave him the number. He called him. I remember I was out on my backyard patio back home in California at the time, sitting there, nervous wreck. And I'm like, I'm not going to go to Cumberland. I don't know what I'm going to do now. And Coach Hunt calls me back, and he goes, all right, man, sounds like everything's working out. This is what we can do for you. And I'm like, what? And he goes, yeah. And I was like, you talked to Coach? And he goes, yeah. He goes, he said a lot of great things about you. He really did. And it sounds like you're a perfect fit. I'm like, what the hell? So the whole point of the story was I went from not feeling like I knew I needed to be in Nashville, but not knowing how, to not getting cut because it was at the end of fall, but being told I wasn't coming back, to getting nearly a full ride to the number 1 ranked NAI in the country. They just won a World Series last year, and it was in Nashville. It was in Lebanon, 30 minutes outside of Nashville. Yeah. And that's how I knew. It's things like that happen where I'm like, okay. In the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm going to Tennessee to play baseball. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm going to Tennessee to pursue music.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be a country singer.
Hell yeah.
And so I got out here. I spent 1 semester, played 1 season with them. I almost stayed to play football. I was going to go out for quarterback for them because I was a year away from my bachelor's degree. I can thank my junior college coaches for wasting about 2 years of academic eligibility on. So, bro, I took a class called the Research of Methodology in junior college. It's the study of studying.
Yeah.
It was the stupidest shit. Like, so yeah, it that's how I ended up in Nashville. I had no idea I was going to be in Nashville, but I knew somehow I was going to get there, and it just, I mean, a yellow brick road rolled out, and I just decided to skip on down it.
Damn.
Yeah.
That is wild. It's crazy. That similar kind of thing happened for me moving here. I remember there was one night I was studying really, really late at OTC, Ozark Technical Community College in Springfield, Missouri.
Yeah.
And randomly, I was volunteering at Rogersville, which was kind of just outside of Springfield. So I was volunteer firefighting at this very small department. And, you know, I was thinking about where I wanted to work as a fireman at some point, you know, after college. And one night, the idea randomly hit me. I was like, man, what if I could, like, move to Nashville and do firefighting and singing? Because I just started doing singing, and, you know. So that idea randomly just popped into my head, as you've expressed. That tends to happen sometimes with the good Lord. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, I go, okay. So I immediately got on Google Maps and I started looking at cities around Nashville. And I just, you know, I would type in Murfreesboro fire. I would type in Franklin fire, Goodlettsville fire, Hendersonville fire. Well, I came across this Hendersonville application, and there was 2 more days that they were taking applications. So I was like, damn, that's okay. So real quick, I filled out my application, got a call from them and said, hey, you know, you want to come down here? We're going to be doing a process, you know, written test, a physical agility, and then an interview. And if you pass all those, then, you know, you'll get a job. So I was like, okay. So drove from my college town to down here to Tennessee, tested. This was in, I guess, September of like 2014. September 2014. Didn't get a call for the longest time. Then in, I think it was like January of 2016. I got a call and said, hey man, do you want to come down for an interview? So it would have been like almost, you know, a year and a half. Mm-hmm. And so I come down for an interview, and it is what it is. And they called me back about a week later and said, hey man, we're hiring 2 people and you're 3rd place on our list. And I was like, damn. So I did not get the job, and I was really bummed about it. And I was like, well, all right, guess I'm not going to Nashville. So then fast forward 5 months, it is June of 2016. It's just a couple days after my birthday, probably like June 28th, around there. I'm in a fire truck heading to a fire. I'm driving the tanker, which has like 1,000 gallons of water in it. I'm driving out to a rural area for this fire, and I shouldn't be admitting this, but my phone, I was getting a call, and it said Hendersonville, Tennessee. And I was like, no way. So I answer it, and I go, hello? And, you know, I got the sirens and everything going. That's really bad, isn't it? But anyway, I get on the phone, and he goes, hey, this is Chief Bush from the Hendersonville Fire Department. Are you still wanting a job here? Also, are you heading to a fire right now? I said, yes, sir, and yes, sir. I'm interested in the job still. And yes, I'm headed to a fire. He goes, all right, how about you call me back whenever you get done with that?
Yeah.
When you get done with that fire. So as soon as I get back from the grass fire or whatever it was, I call him, and he said, hey man, we just had a budget go through, and we can take 1 more firefighter. It's just we have enough money to hire 1 more person, and we're going to keep your interview from last time. It's yours if you want it, pretty much. And I was like, really just dumbfounded and surprised. I was like, this is not happening. And I said, okay, yes sir, when do you need to know by? and this was at like 10 a.m. He said, man, let me know by 3 o'clock today. And I said, well, that's 5 hours. Can I let you know tomorrow? He said, no. He said, you need to let me know today by 3 if you want the job or not. So I had 5 hours to decide if I wanted to do it. Called my dad, and he said, man, I really think you should stay here. You got everything good set up. We're going to let you buy our house. You just got everything made here pretty much. And then my mom was like, that sounds like a great opportunity. You need to go do that. So they didn't help at all.
No, yeah.
They didn't help at all, but I prayed about it, and I called Chief back at like 4:30 that day. I said, all right, I'll be there. And then it was, some people would call it an accident or a coincidence, but that's how I ended up in Nashville.
But isn't that so cool how, like, I'm infatuated with the idea of going outside of your comfort zone. Like, here you were, coming from your dad's standpoint, right? Like, you were comfortable. You had a great job. You had a lot of things set up. You were happy.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you get an opportunity to move into a completely different state that you probably don't know anybody in.
586 miles away.
586 miles away into a brand new, and it's like, some of the thought of that can scare the shit out of people. Dude, but at the same time, like, it probably was a thrill. You're like, I'm going to meet new people. I'm going to meet new friends. I'm going to live somewhere I don't know. It's going to be a complete change in scenery. I get to pursue music. I get to be near Nashville. Like, was it not like a thrill when you really like digested that?
It was. And I remember I had 2 weeks from the moment I made that phone call saying, yes, I'll do it. He said, all right, be here in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And we'll get you all your gear. We'll get you set up. And then, we'll get the process started. So for 2 weeks, I didn't get very much sleep those nights, man, because I was just so excited, nervous, worried about, like, what the future was going to hold. But, man, now that I'm here, it's like it was the best decision ever.
See, that's what's so cool to me is, like, at the end of the day, every time you were put into a situation where you were very uncomfortable, it always ended up being okay, right? Because at some point, your best friend was a stranger to you.
Yeah.
At some point, this town was you didn't know shit about this town.
No.
And like for me, when I was on that phone call with Coach Woody Hunt, after he talked to my coach at East Bay, and he told me, he's like, hey, this is what we can do for you. I'll scrap up as much money as I can. It's not going to be a full ride, but it'll be really close to it. Is this something you want to do? And I told him, Coach, can I call you back? I need to talk to my parents. Like, I didn't go, I don't think I went too much into detail, but I told him about my dad. My dad had just had a stroke, and my dad, passed in 2018, and he was my best friend. Love my dad to death still. But I wanted to be close by. I really did. And I talked to my parents. My dad, without even hesitation, was like, go. Like, you need to be in Nashville. Are you kidding me? And no matter where my career takes me as an artist, and no matter how fangirl of a fangirl I might get one day, I've seen some weird ones. I'm not gonna lie to you, but my dad will always be the biggest fangirl I've ever had.
Damn.
And but here I was in California, and oddly enough, I was actually planning on being a firefighter. That was gonna be my fallback. And I think we talked about this a couple years back. I feel like
maybe we did.
Yeah, firefighting was actually my fallback. But I cut that out as a fallback because I told myself if I convince myself that I have a secondary option, I'm not going to put full effort and submerge myself in music. But I had to decide right then and there. It was about 3,000 miles away from home.
Yeah.
So the farthest I lived, I had been living on my own since I was 20, I think. And it was an hour away. So I could just get in my Durango and drive an hour back home, and I was home. But this was different, and I was so excited, and it was just high. I was like had this high on life about this opportunity that I just kept thinking of, like, I'm gonna be in Nashville. I get to do this. I get the opportunities are gonna be there. But it wasn't until my parents took me to the airport. I was going on a one-way flight to Nashville, and this all happened within a week of my coach at Cal State East Bay telling me that we don't think you're coming back. Less than a week, I was on my way to Nashville.
And you had no idea, right?
No idea.
He said,
so
hey, man. Yeah.
When I was at the airport, I got out of the car. I gave my mom a hug. I was so excited, bro. I was so excited. And my parents were so supportive and excited, too. My mom was waterworks, right? Like, she cried. She was – and I expected that. That's my mom. But when my dad – I was there, with my dad, there was at one point where I strengthened my dad's relationship with the Lord. And to where he was calling me while I was in Tennessee, telling me how he was taking my mom to church and stuff. And like, I introduced him to our senior pastor at the church. I was in the high school ministry at that church, and like, it was my home church. But when I went to hug my dad, it was a hug that you never forget. I mean, it was a type of hug where he wrapped his arms around me, but he pulled me in.
And this is like right before you left?
I was at the airport about to get on that one-way flight to Nashville. I was going to be living in Nashville, going to Cumberland playing baseball, and I'd never lived out of state. And so, and my dad he traveled to all my baseball tournaments. I mean, he went to Florida for nationals with me. He went to Arizona, Nebraska. I traveled everywhere with my dad for baseball. But he gave me this hug, and he just started crying. And it was the type of hug where he hugged me, but he pulled me in, and like I didn't want to let go. And at that, right then and there, within a flash of a second, feeling my dad's hug and that embrace, I almost didn't get on that flight.
Damn.
And within a second, I'm like, I can't leave this man. And then, but at the same time, I saw in his eyes, and he was proud. And all I could think, and this sounds so Hollywood cliche, I'm not trying to make, it was go, son. Like, go, chase us. And I did. And so, but it wasn't until I was in Tennessee for about 2 weeks when I pulled out my phone and pulled up Google Maps and I put my home address in, and it said it was going to take me 30 hours to drive home. That's when I'm like, shit, I can't drive home. I'm not an hour away from home. I'm literally 3,000 miles away from everything that I've ever known. But but in the middle of all of it, I was so thrilled to be in Tennessee. That idea of being so far from home didn't even enter my mind. And it did a couple times. People talked about it, but I'm like, man, I'm just so excited, blah, blah. It hadn't hit me yet. But it was when I was in Tennessee and I was watching snow, dust on the grass outside, which I didn't see a lot of snow back home where I was at. I'd seen snow, but and it was I mean, shit, dude. It was like 20 degrees. I was freezing my ass off, bro. And I remember pulling my phone up. I took a picture, sent it to my mom, pulled my phone up, and I was like, holy shit, dude, I'm 30 hours away from home. And that's when it finally hit me. But the thrill of all of it, dude, it was just, I wish people would have really embraced that more.
Yeah.
Honestly, I wish it's kind of like have you ever heard the story of Will Smith and skydiving? So he was talking about how he was out like clubbing with some friends or something, and it was I think it was his birthday or the day before his birthday, and they're all out that night and they were drinking, they were a little buzzed, and so his buddy was like, yeah, man, it's your birthday, blah blah, and, how you feeling? He's like, man, I want to go skydiving tomorrow. He goes, all right, let's do it. And he goes, all right, man. He's like laughing and so he goes back home that night, after all the partying's done. He's laying in bed, and his buddy, before he did that, his buddy's like, all right, dude, I'm gonna book it. And Will's like, all right, man, he's thinking like, you're full of shit, and he's laying in bed, and a thought crosses his mind. He's like, wait a minute, what's his name did say he was gonna book? Nah, he's probably joking. He gets a call the next morning when he wakes up. His buddy's like, all right, bro, we're gonna be taking off from this airport at like 10:30 a.m. Dude, get your ass here by 10. He goes, what? He goes, we're skydiving. He goes, dude, I thought you were joking. And he goes, no, man. He goes, get your ass over. I already paid for it and everything. I can't get my money back. And Will's like, oh, shit. So Will was like, all right. He was obviously, and as he's telling this, he was scared as shit. He went out to the airport. He got in the airplane, and it started going up. And he just, dude, I remember hearing him talk about it. He was scared shitless. And then all of a sudden it was, however many thousand feet up, they opened the door. And he's looking, and he's like, fuck. Yeah. So Will's holding on, and the parachute guy, he's like, yeah, how you doing? He goes, not good. So he's like, all right, so on the count of 3, we're going to jump, all right? And Will's like, what? No. And he's like, on the count of 3. He goes, okay. So he goes, 1, 2, and then he pushes him. And he pushes Will out, and Will's like, what the and then Will's like, it's because if you tell 3, I mean, the death grip that a human can have, you ain't pulling that sucker off those rails. He's like, so you see, he pushed him on 2 because he knew he wasn't going to be holding on hard.
Yeah.
But he said, so Will was scared shitless. He was in fear. He was uncomfortable. He was nervous. But he said as soon as he jumped from the plane and he started free falling, he's like, it was pure bliss. He goes, it was the most amazing experience I had ever had. He's like, no, everything in the world, it's like everything was just still and quiet, as weird as it sounds. Like it just was this tranquility. And then what he got to, he's like, you have to realize in life that on the other side of fear, is sometimes your greatest joy.
Yeah.
And the only way you're ever going to experience that is if you step out of your comfort zone every now and then. You know, you got to be, if you're uncomfortable, you're growing. As an athlete, I always told myself, if I want to be the best at something, I have to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And that's how I constantly grew. And coming to Nashville wasn't comfortable. Moving to Nashville for you, leaving Missouri, wasn't comfortable.
No.
But like I said earlier, every time you were uncomfortable, it always ended up being all right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's and to me that's encouraging going forward because it's like I already know that I have that personality where I can recognize something when it's uncomfortable, but yet I'm going to do it anyway. So I know that I'm going to be able to keep pushing on. Is that how you feel too?
Yeah, it's just this trust because at the end of the day, it's like, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
you're not going to die.
You're a smart dude. You're a firefighter. Like, you had a stable job in Missouri. Like, the worst possible thing that could happen is you move out to Nashville or Hendersonville, right?
Mm-hmm.
Move out to Hendersonville. You get a firefighting job. You get a place. You're making money. You're putting food on the table, like clothes on your body, like you pay for the house above your head. So is it really that bad? Like, no. But it's like you're gonna meet a whole different group of friends that didn't know anything about you before the day you stepped foot in that town.
Yeah.
It's like you almost get a second chance.
Yeah.
And it's so cool because a lot of people didn't know I was really shy in high school out here. You know, everybody thought I was always just talkative, outgoing, just tall, goofy guy.
Yeah.
And it's like, but I was shy when I was younger. I was, and I love baseball. Like, I love sports. But nobody knew that side of me out here until I got called out for softball, slow pitch, and started hitting dingers left and right. And then that's, it's you almost get to reinvent yourself.
Yeah.
And then traveling. Dude, traveling's so cool, man.
I love it.
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
What kind of hat you got on? You got you're a San Francisco Giants fan, aren't you?
Huge Giants fan.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, so San Francisco Giants, San Francisco 49ers. I know you're a big Chiefs fan.
Yes.
Niner fan, Sharks and hockey. I'm a San Jose Sharks fan.
Okay.
I do like the Preds out here. And any Nashville teams, I support. And But let's be honest, if the Titans are playing the Niners, I'm Niners all the way.
Yeah.
But it's pretty much, Golden State Warriors. It's all Bay Area.
Hell yeah. Reason I asked that is because there's something that I've been doing the last couple episodes. My friend Dallas had this idea of me giving away things on the show here, something you can kind of take home with you and kind of remember the episode, whatever. I got one of my hats right here.
Oh, hell yeah.
I don't know if you can see that or not, but so this is a Richardson 112 trucker hat. And, man, this is yours. I want to thank you for coming on the show. That's yours to take home, bro.
Yeah, brother, thank you.
But
I love it.
And next thing I was going to ask you was what kind of plans do you got going forward with some of your music stuff?
Yeah. So I'm at the exciting part of my music where I know my brand. I know everything about me as an artist.
Okay.
And so I've recorded a handful of songs. I released one recently, a couple weeks back. I've got
Called Run.
Okay. Yep. I got a couple more songs that are already recorded, mixed and mastered that I'm going to be releasing. So 2022. I mean, the goal, truthfully, is I'd love to have at least an EP released by the end of the year. But at this point, I know for sure I'll be releasing at least a half a dozen songs this year.
Cool.
But I mean, at this rate, I mean, I've just been in the writing room as an artist, like with what I want to say. It's just pouring out, man. It's like an open floodgate.
Good.
And so it's like everything that I spent the last couple of years really, really ironing out has finally come together. So this year is just a lot of that. I'll be doing some traveling, playing some shows. I'm looking at Alabama a little bit. Some full band gigs out there. I'm going to start doing a lot of full band downtown, which I'm excited. Not a lot, but a good amount. But the main thing, is release some music, try to get my music out there and travel and play for some fans that are been following me for a minute all over.
Yeah, that's exciting, man. And I'll have to come check you out whenever you're playing downtown. Are you playing at like Old Red or Jason's or where are you playing?
Yeah, so lately it's been a lot at Miranda's Bar, Casa Rosa.
I love that bar.
Yeah, it's a cool bar. A lot of pink.
It's a music venue.
Yeah. A
real music venue.
Yeah. So, it's I play a lot at hers. I play at Luke Bryan's, Jason Aldean's. I was playing at Old Red here and there. I love Old Red. But I've been mainly playing A lot of Casa Rosa.
Gotcha.
On my Instagram, I always have all my shows. Every week I put my shows up on my link and bio.
What's your on your socials so people can follow you?
Yeah. It's so Instagram is my most preferred. That's usually where I direct people.
Okay.
And that's at Cameron Lenz, Lenz official. So Cameron Lenz official. And then everything else, Facebook, Spotify is just Cameron Lenz. That's the artist name.
Of course.
Yeah, it all stems from that.
TikTok is a Cameron Lenz official as well?
It's I think it's Cameron Lenz Music.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then you said that you have a website as well?
Well, I mean, I have a link tree, so it's got.
Okay.
I technically have a website. I haven't put a whole lot into the website because I can get everything I need out of the link tree.
Okay.
But the link tree. It's so on all my socials, there's a link that takes to. It's in that link tree. It's got not only where I play, but all my socials, Spotify, everything on there.
Cool. So they'll be able to follow you that way. Do you have a store where people can buy T-shirts or anything?
No, that's all coming soon. Though.
Okay.
Yeah, real soon. I actually am. I just talked to somebody yesterday about getting it ordering. It's going to be mainly hats and koozies to start. But I'm pumped, man. Some of these hats are sweet.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
I've always found that hats sell really well because you got the people that didn't wear a hat at all to the show, so they put it on immediately. But then you've also got the fact that the hat's small and they can either just kind of carry it around or attach it to their belt loop or put it in their purse, whatever.
Well, it is pretty unisex too. I mean, guys and girls fairly evenly both will wear the hat.
Yes, for sure. I would say hats sell as good or maybe even a little bit better than shirts do.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a nice hat. It's got to be a nice hat, though.
The shirt, and that's what I've learned. Shirts really got to be, it's got to have a really unique look. And oddly enough, sometimes just a simple shirts with just like a logo over your pocket. That I've noticed a lot of people, especially women, will want to rock those a little bit more.
Yeah.
Guys, we just like the old Randy Travis shirts or the George Strait shirts or Alan Jackson. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's hard to figure out with the shirts, man.
Yeah. Well, it's all part of figuring it out. Hey, man. So we were talking about music. Just releasing it a second ago. Would you, not to put you on the spot, and you can say no if you want. Would you be down to play Run or play a song that's maybe coming out? You pick. Whatever.
Yeah. I'll play something.
Okay.
I got a new one. That I wrote called Me, My Beer, and My Dog, actually.
Whatever you want to do, brother. And it may be...
is it maybe out of tune?
It could be. It's got a tendency to do that.
Oh.
Oh, it was drop, wasn't it? Yeah. So I played Bus Call last night at Tin Roof on Cumberland Street, and our last song, it's dropped down pretty heavy. So what song you got for us? What you thinking?
It's called Me, My Beer, and My Dog. I wrote it in about 30 minutes. I'll give you a little verse chorus of it. It's not recorded yet.
Yeah.
I'd had some interesting dating relationship experiences. A lot of toxic ones, put it that. But I had one girl that tried to tell me what to do and tried to tell me I should go back to school and not do music.
Wow.
So the whole idea was... first of all, I'm not going to have a woman tell me what to do. I will always take guidance, but the way she went about it, I was not a fan. So it's about just having the freedom.
Yeah.
So it's a half step, you said, right?
Yes, sir.
Oh, man. I'm going to try my best to remember these lyrics. Can I do one on, one off? Is that cool? With the earmuffs?
Yeah, do whatever you want, bro.
Cool. Okay to swear a little bit, right?
Of course.
Okay.
This is your episode, man.
I gotta be careful when I play this song out loud. She gave me reasons, she gave me doubts. Crumbled up what we had and she threw it on the couch. Thought I'd be hopeless, I wouldn't survive. But little did she know that when she finally left my drive, I ain't mad, but sure it hurt a little, but I don't have to be the fool in the middle of her. You shouldn't be doing that, you should have been out doing this. But now I'm a free man, no more of her shit, 'cause it's just me, my beer and my dog. bear and my dog.
Yeah. Have you finished that one?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Man, I'll be excited to hear the recorded version of that too. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, we shouldn't be having to put up with anybody telling us what to do.
No. You want to hear the rest of this?
Yeah. I think everybody else does too.
Let's do it. Yeah, let's do it. All right, let's see where I left off. First thing we did, we left the house. Climbed up in my 72 she always bitched about. Rolled down the windows, there it is, put on some Hank. Parked up by the riverside singing while we drank. I ain't drunk, well maybe just a little, but I don't have to be the fool in the middle of her. You shouldn't be doing that, you should have been here doing this. But now I'm a free man, no more of her shit, cause it's just me, my bear and my dog. Now it's just me, my bear and my dog. Now we can finally do whatever we want, cause it's just me, my bear and my dog. Yeah, it's just simple, man. It's just, and then the bridge, she called me up. Sure, I miss her a little, but I won't ever be the fool in the middle of her. You shouldn't have been doing that, you should have been here doing this. But now I'm a free man, no more of her shit, cause it's just me, my beer and my dog. Yeah, it's just me, my beer and my dog. Yeah, we could finally do whatever we want. Now it's just me, my beer and my dog. And it's gonna stay like that.
Yeah.
Come on, boy. Wanna go for a ride? Get your ball. We don't need her, pal. We're going.
Very nice.
I'm gonna hand this out. Beautiful guitar, by the way.
Heck yeah, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, cool, man.
Well, yeah, you mentioned acting too earlier.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask
me
you
about some of that. Yeah.
How in the heck did that come about? Because that's very intriguing to me and something that I've always been kind of curious about.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm very confident as a person now, so I'm not ashamed to do what I like to do. But when I was younger, I always wanted to act, and I always actually really wanted to be on the Disney Channel. I really did. Not a lot of people knew that. Just like not a lot of people knew I was a singer until I took the leap. But it was during quarantine, 2020. I had done some music video stuff for some friends, did some lead stuff, and I loved it. And I always secretly wanted to act, but it's kind of intimidating because like, how do I get into it? What do I do? Where do I, I literally just woke up one day and I just said, F it, and I reached out to a couple acting studios. The one I'm at now is one of them, and
what studio is that?
Fourth Wall Acting.
Okay.
And I threw myself in there. Read a lot of acting literature from some people that I was a fan of. Sandy Meisner and the Meisner Technique was one of them. But just read a bunch of books, tried to take notes, and it really started changing my understanding of how to act. And it was really intriguing. It was exciting. So I joined the acting studio and started doing scene study, which is basically, if you can imagine any show you watch on Netflix or any movie, right? Like, what's your favorite movie? Give me
favorite movie. Oh man, I'm not a huge movie guy, but probably best comedy ever is probably Dumb and Dumber.
Okay, yeah, Okay, Dumb and Dumber. So, I'm trying to think of an exact moment in Dumb and Dumber. But basically, whenever you're watching a show and there's a camera angle on a character and it swaps a couple times, like that's considered a scene.
Yeah.
And so those scenes can last, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, sometimes shorter. So what this whole studio does is they take scenes from shows and movies that we know, some that we don't, and then they assign it to students in the class, and then we have a week to prepare for that scene, memorize the lines, character preparation, emotional preparation, everything we need to do, and dial in on how we want to bring that character to life in our way. So we're not necessarily impersonating, but we're acting. Like I did a scene last week from New Girl. You ever seen New Girl?
Yeah, I do like that show.
Great show. Yeah. So the scene was when Nick was dating Julia, that lawyer.
Okay.
There was a scene where they were at the lawyer party, and I played Nick, and a friend of mine in class played Julia, and so I love rom-com. I think that's my strong suit. But it was a rom-com, so we acted out the scene, and I brought if I were to be auditioning for Nick, I tried to bring my version of Nick to that. So there are obviously some commonalities between like in the actual character that and I'm Jake, I think was his name. What's the actor's name? Do you know the actor's name?
I'm terrible with that stuff, dude.
So yeah, it's anyways. That I think it's Jake something, but that actor brought in his own take on that character. But there's still a breakdown in the character. So we basically just get to work and constantly throw ourselves in scenes. And so I did that. I fell in love with it. Ended up getting an agent. And then I walked away from that agent. Then I had a manager at one point. I walked away from that manager, both on good terms. But I started learning, first of all, I can do this. But secondly, it's hard as shit.
Oh, I bet.
Because it's not only is it physically acting, you're going to be in uncomfortable situations. And that's been humbling for me. But there's a lot of luck, a lot of fate, and a lot of timing. So look at Morgan Freeman. He didn't get his break until he was like 52.
Wow.
And there are some actors that they go into their 30s and 40s, but then they get that one break and they're set. Which is, goes back to us talking about you got to love to climb the mountain instead of being at the top. And that's, it's acting is a ton of fun, man. It really is. I enjoy it. I love it. It's really taught me a lot about myself. It's grown me quite a bit in my confidence and just being more me. And plus, everybody in that class, in those studios, they're very artistic. So they're very okay with putting their emotions on their sleeve. So I'm always around people that are real, that are fun, that are goofy. A lot of people kind of hide those sides of them outside of art.
I think that would be the hardest thing for me is being emotionally vulnerable with a bunch of people like that, because I get nervous even showing somebody a new song for the first time. It's like, hey man, like if you don't like, all right, I'm just gonna show it to you. I always get that feeling, and I'm just so like, it's. I struggle with that in the writing room too. Whenever we're writing songs and we're trying to give out ideas, like I don't want somebody thinking that my ideas sound stupid because I'm being too much of one emotion. So that's something I'm trying to get better at. But yeah, man, that's really cool, and I'm excited to follow you in that acting journey.
I appreciate that, man. It's been fun so far, and I've had some cool experiences and foot in the door with some cool things. At one point I was actually submitted for like The Walking Dead, and the feedback that I got was that they loved my look, but they didn't have a character for me, so I didn't match.
They wanted you to be an actual character in the show potentially.
So they thought I had a good look for potentially another character down the road or something. I don't know, but what they were saying is like, we like you, but they were casting for certain characters. This was actually like maybe a year and a half ago.
Gotcha.
So they were casting for different characters. Maybe they're like, hey, we want a male 30 to 40s with a Monopoly guy mustache, and Caucasian, whatever, kind of Southern, whatever. So they'll have a very specific demographic, and then they pool together this talent that gets submitted, and then they kind of go and do auditions and cast through that. So I was submitted for a certain role, but I think the director and the casting directors wanted to go for a different look. I don't know. That's the thing is you don't really know, because it's not like you're not good enough. Yeah. It really comes down to if they want to hire a certain look, they're going to hire that look.
It's about the fit.
Yes. However, another example is I shook the hand of one of the screenwriters of Cobra Kai, because a buddy of mine is the stunt coordinator for it, and it was super cool getting to meet him. But he took one look at me and he goes, "You know karate?" And I was like, man, I can flail my limbs around. I said, but I can learn. And he kind of just gave me this nod. And right then and there, I'm like, wait a minute. There's a small chance. I don't know what this guy's thinking. Really nice guy. But there's a chance that he might have saw me and then decided when he writes the next season that he wants to bring in a tall, long-haired, dark-featured guy for a role. Yeah. It's like, stuff like that can happen, on a dime. So
It sounds very similar to music in the way that, hey man, you may not be getting the attention yet, but you need to be working every day at your craft, because when that moment comes, you need to be ready for it.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, you gotta love doing it, because sometimes it takes a long time for the moment to come. Other people, man, it can just land in their lap the first day.
Yeah.
And hey, good for them, but that's not always in God's plan.
Yeah.
And you know, there's a reason. Sometimes you need to go through life to prepare you for the character that you're going to get casted for. Maybe you go through a terrible heartbreak and you end up getting casted for some kind of drama, and you play the guy that goes through a terrible heartbreak. So there's always things.
And
that
it's
happen.
real easy for you to cry because you're coming off a fresh heartbreak.
Yeah.
That's funny. Heck yeah.
There you go.
Dude, man, you're just doing so many different interesting things, and I think that's awesome. And
thanks, man.
I'm really, really glad we got to catch up, because I honestly had no idea that 90% of this stuff was happening for you.
Oh yeah.
So this is stoking the fire of my curiosity of what Cameron Lenz is up to.
Yeah,
man. So,
I'm a man of mystery.
Yeah. So if you ever have like a little video clip or something from you acting, dude, I'd love for you to send it to me so I can see that stuff, because that's so cool to me.
Yeah,
that's
I did a student film recently with some students from Belmont, and I'm doing some more of that. And when I get some hands on that, I'll shoot your way.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I was an asshole bully in that. It was fun, but yeah, one of the kids that it was I basically played a guy that was dating a girl, and then the good guy was a nerdy kid who secretly loved this girl, wanted to tell her before they all went out to college. And the first scene was me answering the door and getting in this kid's face. And I remember the first take. I hadn't met the kid until we got to the scene. Yeah. And the first take, the director said cut, and he goes, I'll be honest, you were very convincing right there. I thought you were going to hit me in the face and kick my ass. And I was like, dude, I wouldn't hurt a fly, man. I was like, you're good, bro. I said, I'm so sorry, but at least I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a dick, dude. But yeah, man, if I get my hands on it, I'll shoot you away. It was fun.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, man.
Perfect. Well, man, we'll wrap it up so you can get to your show today. I know you're playing downtown Broadway. What bar are you playing at today? Casa Rosa?
Yeah, Casa Rosa, 2 to 6.
Casa Rosa, 2 to 6.
Yeah, man.
Well, if I can get all this stuff torn down in time, maybe I'll shoot up that way something. But yeah, buddy, I just want to say I'm proud of you, and just keep doing what you're doing. And we're friends. Anytime you need something from me, you just reach out.
Hey, and that's a two-way street, man. It's we both went through some similarities with coming out here and chasing a dream, and this town needs more people that support and encourage rather than tear down and rip apart. And it's so it's likewise, man. I'm proud of you for making the move out here, for chasing it, for not giving in. That's cool, man. I'm always a fan.
Well, thanks for encouraging me.
Yeah, man.
I'm just on the journey like everybody else.
I also want to encourage that.
Yeah. I like how he said growing. Monopoly man, mustache 30 to 40.
Yeah, keep growing that, man.
I'm actually not 30 yet.
No. Yeah, I'm
27.
That. But I was going off the Monopoly. Yeah,
I know. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
But yeah.
Yeah, man. I don't know. This was just kind of started out as a joke, but I'm starting to realize that not many other people in this town have this look, and in a town where a lot of people do a lot of copy type stuff. I'm like, man, maybe this can be like my one thing that sets me apart. Because one thing that's funny about it is I'll meet people and they'll be like, listen, dude, I don't remember your name at all, but I can't forget that damn mustache. Yeah. So like, it's kind of helping me network a little bit and making it memorable, I guess.
Throw a little bit of wax in that.
I have some wax, and I've been getting a little
bad boy up.
Yeah. I've been getting a little bit lazy with it, but yeah, I do the wax in there. So.
Oh man, that is. That for those of us that can't grow that, I'm clean shaven, but even when I don't shave, like I can't grow shit. So
yeah. Well, 2 years ago, I couldn't grow a mustache. I just had to keep retrying it.
What's the secret?
It just one
dunk in your face,
literally,
and argan oil, or what?
3 years ago, I tried to do it, and I grew it out for like a month and a half, and nothing really happened. I was like, okay, I'm not that. And then last year I did it, and it was pretty decent. And then this year I was like, I'm gonna try one more time, and it just keeps getting thicker. It's just like 1 year it just started. It's strange. I think it's directly proportional to my receding hairline. The more my hair recedes on the top,
it's just transferring to your chin and your.
The more my hair falls out or along my hairline, the more it grows.
Well, I think your top lip's probably just catching it as it falls.
I don't know. But hey, man, I want to have you back sometime.
We'd love to,
whenever the following is escalated a little more.
This is great. Yeah,
once I get this stuff figured out. But man, thank you so much for coming on today, guys. This has been episode 8, I believe, with Cameron Lenz. Make sure you show him some love and keep up with his journey. See you on the next episode.